Dan here, DD Speed Shop. Today I want to talk about quick things. We've been buying lots of cars, and we've been buying lots of doubles of cars, and people have not been asking too many questions, but it's kind of one of those things where I've learned over the years now of buying cars. I buy all sorts of cars from all sorts of different people, from all sorts of different places. And some cars are way better than others, and typically the better cars come from better people, in my experience. I try and be a good, honest seller as much as I possibly can, and I try and be a very upfront and honest buyer. I'll say what I think it's worth, and I will show up with cash on a trailer and make it go away. So even if you maybe feel like you're losing a few bucks or whatever, you know, at least you also know I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get it to the next level. It might not be SEMA ready, but it will be, you know, hopefully go back on the road. It won't just sit for many years. But what I've learned is it Murphy's Law, where it's like you do something and then you figure, we'll call it Dan's Law. You buy one car, and then all of a sudden you find a better one, or another better one, or whatever it may be, down the road. And I don't know where a lot of people think of this, or what your thoughts are on it, but just because you already have a car of the exact same nature, but then you start working on it, and then all of a sudden you end up with something far better for far cheaper, I still buy it, which maybe is not the smartest thing to do, but it is kind of what I do enjoy. So out back, all the first purchase cars are there, and out front is all the second purchase cars. So we'll walk out there, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about, then we'll come back here and kind of go over a few things. Okay, so what I have learned, actually Danny told me on the walk out here, is in my experience, you can wait for the best car, which might pop up, or you have to own the car and then a better one will somehow appear.
You have to be willing to have the worst version in order to get the best version.
So we're in a funny situation where the worst version makes more videos and Danny can slip more ads in there and then she can go skiing more. So it's kind of this triple win situation. These two cars are, well, these three cars are perfect examples of that. 70 Chevelle, I was looking for a 70 Chevelle for years, like years and years and years. I've had one in my life and I've always been one of my favorite cars. This one came up, and I will say this guy wasn't necessarily a bad guy. I didn't really know him at all. I only met him the one time. The car was cheap, it was a couple $1,000s, but as you can see by how much black sheet metal is on it, that's how rough it was. Floorboards, everything, top, front to back, wore out.
This was a car that changed a lot of hands.
This car got passed around. I was gonna, I'll fix it. No one ever did. And here we are, no motor, no transmission. The rear end was whooped out of it, the brakes, everything.
Everyone kept taking it further and further apart.
Further and further apart. So there's that. 57 Chevy, two-door hardtop, Bel Air, power windows, pretty nice little car. This one, again, the guy was a bit of a unique character. This one came from an auction, changed hands a bunch of times. It was going to be fixed, never did. We got our hands on it. It's slowly moving ahead. In this case, it's already been sold, but we had, I think, the worst 57 Chevy two-door hardtop maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago. And I built it, and it was rough.
Save a dog.
To save a dog. A friend of mine called up and says, hey, my dog needs dog surgery, and we need dog money for dog surgery. Will you buy this car? So I bought it. And it was rough. And what I learned in that was all the trim was missing. All that stuff. The metal isn't like a fender's a fender. A 57 Chevy, it's not the end of the world. But the flippers, whatever they're called, all this back trim, unique. All this sort of stuff, unique. The dash, all that stuff. This car had every bit of chrome, and it's in decent shape, driver quality shape. That's hard to find. So this is a better car. Now, in this case, I actually saw this car and I was kind of bidding on it. It went too much for me. And then, we sold the other car and I ended up with this one. So that's cool. Let's talk Volvo. So this poor Volvo, we've been working on this the last kind of few months. We bought this from a unique individual. I definitely didn't get a deal on it. I got two cars. This one was kind of complete, motor stuff in it, missing stuff like gauges and all that. Had the trim, had the glass, had all the panels, missing some stuff here and there, but really rusty. Bought a bunch of stuff relatively affordably. There's actually a guy in Canada making panels. I put it all together, And this is what we've ended up with. And I don't know how many hours I have in this thing. But that black car we were just leaning on, I probably have, I have a lot in a short amount of time, but I don't think I have 60 hours in it, 50 hours in it. I worked every single night on it and 2 weekends full. So whatever that works out to be, you know, I could easily get 40 or 50 hours going in it. Far superior car than this for far less money from a fantastic guy. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more. In the shop there, we have the blue Nomad, the Nomad, obviously. I mean, we can walk over and look at that. That's on the channel lots, but that was a really nice car that I got out of an auction. And as you guys know, I had one of the worst Nomads known to man, 55 Chevy. And same thing, I had to buy another car, parts car for the floor, and it has no trim on it. It's bare bones. I had to buy the glass. I couldn't believe how much the glass cost. And this one ended up being in auction fine. The guy, I don't know what happened, if he passed or whatever, but ended up at a towing auction. It's now a storage unit, as you can see. But a car that was restored probably in the 80s maybe. And it's a really nice, solid, original car. It's got its, you know, lumps and bumps and bruises, but it has all the trim. It has these little 55 Chevy Nomad geek here, but the front trim on a 55 Chevy Nomad is the eyebrow trim, the fender trim, the door trim is unique to a 55 Nomad. So they only made 6,000 or 7,000 or whatever pieces of these things. They now reproduce that chrome, and if you want it, it's $5,000 for the set, US dollars. So ludicrous. This car had it. I mean, it's just a really nice, honest car. But again, we bought the terrible one, which I will say actually that one is unique. I bought it from a great guy, Bill Hill, super good guy. I mean, whatever. But it was a rough car. He saved that thing. He passed it on and carry on. So I'll give that one a little asterisk. Usually the rough cars come from rough characters. He might be a rough character. He's a nice guy. He's got long hair, hippie. But this one actually came from a towing auction, greasy of greasy, and it was nice. But let's go look at the done cars inside. Okay, so you saw the junk. Now this is slightly better junk. Obviously this Volvo I got from a guy, Tim. The story with it, he had it since the 90s. First car he ever had a car payment on. Dragged it around for years, took it apart, but kept, obviously he loved it. It had a lot of, you know, personal attachment, what's it called? Sentimental value. And while he did take it apart and didn't get a chance to restore it, he kept it inside, he kept it in the garage. He did all the right things to it for 35 years, as opposed to the red car, which probably sat outside for 35 years.
Well, and Tim also did the right thing in the sense that, like, even though, and you would never do this, even though it took him extra time, meticulously documented and labeled.
Yeah, he made his own 1800 Volvo book, and he hand wrote where all the fasteners went, where all the wiring stuff, which I used all this to put the wiring back in it, how everything went, color coded, everything, where stuff went, you know what I mean? Like that's a good guy right there who did all that. So also, like, I can't say enough about this car. This is the car you want. That's the car we have, Mer will have, but this is the car you want. This is the keeper, right? This is about as nice as you're gonna get without having either A, restoring a car yourself, or B, buying an already restored car. This is what, you know, car guys dream of. May not be the Volvo, isn't for you, but if this was a 67 Camaro or condition-wise, this is what you want. A relatively rust-free car that's complete, that you probably bought off maybe the second owner, and you can't lose. Exhibit B. Try not to focus on the paint job because we haven't fixed it yet. So this is a 1970 El Camino, which was a bit of a rough car, but not when we got it. So Jesse and his old man, well, I'm going to call them friends at this point, they bought this thing in 2012 or 13 as a bit of a project car. They have a body shop, restoration shop. Kind of had a customer, kind of didn't, you know what I mean? Throughout the years, it ended up getting put further and further together. So this isn't the Chevelle, it is an El Camino, but it is a 70, so it doesn't scratch the itch for me as much as that. I mean, if I had this car, I'd still have to buy a 70 Chevelle. But they did, it's been painted now, but it has new door skins, new quarters, new floors, new fenders, new hood, new cowl. They spent money.
We talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Is that you buy the cars that make all the ugly work.
How I bought this is how I usually sell them.
Yes.
A car I won't take to the extra mile. It was in a million pieces, totes on totes on totes. So I put it all together. But this again, I don't know how many hours I have in this to get to this far, but I can tell you how many hours I have in that Chevelle, and it is a ludicrous amount. So this one now, I mean, it's, if we had to, a week of wrenching it would be running and driving down the road. Now, a meet in the middle car is out here, and this is a 71 Chevelle, 72 Chevelle. What is it? I don't remember what it is. I have to look at the headlights. '72. Man, I forget what this is. So now this is what I would call, this came from a great guy actually as well. He held the car for me. I called him. I said, hey, I'll take it. We came to a price. I said, I'll send you a deposit. He said, don't worry about it. I'll see you in a few days. I had to go away for work. So right there, good guy. So this 72 Chevelle, small block, automatic, runs and drives. It's rough around the edges. So this would be in between the 70 and the 71. He was very honest with it. Took all the pictures I needed about the frame and the floor and all that. This would be rough for sure around the edges, but street legal, registered, went through it. I fixed a few things. We have to do the brakes on it yet because they're having a few issues, and I think we got to do some wiring to get the taillights and all that working. An older restoration, but there you have it. So the way I see it, had I bought that Chevelle, I'd be like, oh, I'm done with Chevelles. I wouldn't have had this, I wouldn't have had the El Camino, which may have been better, let's be honest. The Volvo, bought the Volvo, well then maybe I wouldn't end up with the black Volvo, which is, a far nicer car. So,
And because you are buying these things and people see you buying these things, they're sending you the listings.
can we go back inside? It's cold out. Yes, and I blame you people, the internet, because this black car, I wasn't looking for it, and I got the listing sent to me, called the guy, yep, come look at it right now, and I bought it. 70 Chevelles, or that Chevelle, same thing. This, Jesse, well, since we're friends, he kind of forced himself on it. But there you have it. So I guess what
you put out into the world, you attract situation.
Well, and I think, you know what, it's one of those things, I know we're in a fortunate situation where we make YouTube videos and it kind of affords these things, and what a problem to have. We have too many Chevelles or too many whatever, right? But the reality is, if you're any car guy worth your salt, whatever I have in that Volvo, YouTube money aside, I should be able to sell and get my money back out of it. So I'd be out my labor, but it's like a net zero, kind of car. Maybe make a few bucks, and then I would have this instead. So it's like the paperclip to a house challenge. You know what I mean?
When you're a hobbyist, you can't count your labor.
I never count my labor. Whew. If we did, we'd be in trouble. But ultimately now, because I'm kind of broken in the head, we're going to have an El Camino, we're going to have a driving Chevelle, we'll have a project car Chevelle, we'll have a nice Volvo, Merle will have a nice Volvo, and everybody wins. So there you have it. Don't let having multiple cars get in your way. Just keep buying them. That's always my advice. And ultimately, I've bought lots of cars off suspect people, and follow your gut. If it's too good to be true, or if the guy seems out there and all those things, be aware of it.
Dodgy on your questions.
If they're dodgy, but on the flip side, I have bought some, sometimes the better the story, the better the car. So I don't know what advice I'm giving you. Go out there, buy a hot rod, then 2 weeks later, you'll find a better one. Go buy it too, and then sell the other one. Because if you bought it, someone else will too. So there you go, that's where I'm leaving it. I'm Dan, and I approve this message.